Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in
Yes, thank you
to the
for
catch up
watching.
again. We're back. How are you?
Episode 3.
Episode 3 in the house. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I am good.
Good.
Drinking my water.
Yes. Oh, I
Trying to
have water.
stay hydrated.
My water's over there.
Whew, I'm a little
It's
hot.
so hot. Today's been really hot.
Yeah.
Hey Dad, I see Dad. Hey Hokey. I see some fam in here. What's up everybody?
Yes.
Awesome. So good. Well, hi from Denver. Woohoo!
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, good. Well, we're here again
Yes.
for the catch up. Um, this is the third time around. Thanks for tuning in, you guys. I mean, we just had this idea to get together on Instagram and
hmm
talk about things that that are going on in the world and things that we're interested in.
hmm
Here we are.
Yes. Absolutely. Today we are pursuing truth and trying
Yeah,
to move forward. So,
we are. We are.
and as a reminder, we do this every other Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time and 6 p.m. Mountain Time.
Yes.
So, but this time around, I am on the East Coast. So it's 8 o'clock and it's still
Oh,
quite bright. So this
yeah.
is kind
You said it's what?
it's bright still. Like the sun is not gone.
It's not dark here at 8.
Yeah, it's
Listen,
it's great.
not in Alaska. It stays light
Alaska.
like after 9 a little bit.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
9:05.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's summer, summer, summertime.
Right?
Yeah, totally.
I love it.
Yes, yes, yes.
All right. Well,
All
let's
right,
get into it.
let's do it.
We're going to be talking about pursuing truth tonight. And over the past couple weeks, over the past, it's been kind of a month because we're doing it every other week. We
Mm-hmm.
have just been on here kind of reflecting on what's going on in the world and just sort of sharing our thoughts about where the world is and how we're being affected by that. Our first time on here, we were talking about finding inspiration in the face of a crisis, so staying creative through crisis. Um, and we were really kind of talking about how times of strife can really produce a lot of great creativity. Um,
Mm-hmm.
well, that was a good week. 2 weeks ago, we talked about how we have been dealing in this pandemic and in the quarantine time, and also in the face of a lot of racial injustice. Um, and so we talked about a lot that week. One thing that really kind of stuck out to me, I think we talked a little bit about how the arts can cultivate resilience.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, what does that look like and what does that mean? We talked a bit about how music can really serve as something that can carry us through tough times.
Right.
Um, and we also, at the end of that week, we started getting into kind of how race and our personal experiences with race play into our lives as musicians and how all of that is just super relevant right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so in light of that, we're kind of at a jumping off point, and I think we can both collectively say that we've definitely realized there's a need for change.
Oh yeah.
And in many ways, everything that's going on is crazy, terrible, but at the same time, I think it's been extremely necessary, because it's bringing relevant conversations to the surface, and hopefully it's really going to birth some new change.
Right.
Um,
Just to
so,
add to that,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's crazy how, and we've talked about this before, and everybody really has said this, that it has kind of taken everybody to be at home, stuck at home, just having to sit with themselves to get to a point where we can see race as not this like other topic, but as like a very relevant and important and necessary thing that we all need to work through, all of us.
Yes.
And so it's interesting that this pandemic has kind of brought that to be the forefront, that we can have these conversations. So yeah.
Yeah, that's so good.
Mm-hmm.
It's so true. So I think that's kind of a perfect segue into where we're going. Tonight, the big question that we've kind of been asking ourselves since our last episode is,
Mm-hmm.
how do we take everything that's been happening in the world and begin to cultivate change, and begin to cultivate change that's going to last?
Mm-hmm.
So as we've kind of pondered this question, we were just exploring, like, how do we bring this to Instagram in a way that's going to make sense, and how do we have a conversation that people are going to be able to dialogue with us on.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of came up with these two words, and we're going to kind of use these words as a jumping off point for our discussion.
Yeah.
So the first word is revelation, and the second word is revival.
Right.
So those are definitely two words. If you've heard those words before, and if you have some association with that, with either of those words, when you first hear them, just put a 1 in the comments. Drop a 1 real quick.
A one, like the number one.
Number 1, yeah.
Okay.
So Christiana, do you want to
Yes.
kind of define the words?
Sure. So revelation, we're saying that revelation is a divine or supernatural disclosure to humans of something related to the human experience or the human existence or the world.
Mm-hmm.
So this is about like a divine, supernatural, like coming in and giving some insight.
Yeah.
And we see some people on here. Allison is saying 1. Hi, Allison. And my cousin Stephanie, 1. And T. Maxine, 1. We have a few people in here. Yes. So thank you for your engagement, everyone. Awesome.
So that's revelation.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then revival. Are we ready for that?
Right.
Revival is improving the condition of or strengthening of something. So this is kind of giving something a little bit more popularity or importance again.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's just improving the condition of something, strengthening its condition. And so again, if you've heard of these things, then for sure let us know. Yeah.
I love it.
So those are the definitions:
Awesome.
revelation and revival.
Yeah. So thinking about those words, for everybody who just jumped on here, Christiana just gave us the definition of two words that are going to kind of guide our convo tonight. The first word is revelation. The second word is revival. So in thinking about those words, in the context of the world today, this is a question for everybody who's on here. Where do you see a need for revelation or revival in our culture and in our world? So just ponder that question. I'm going to put the question in the chat really quick so that people can keep thinking about it.
Okay, cool. And while you do that, I'll just maybe reread the definitions one more time. So we're asking everybody who's watching to give us your personal insight on where you think we need revelation or revival in our current culture, in our current world. So again, revelation is about this divine and kind of supernatural disclosure to us humans here in the world. So it's about something else coming in and giving us some insight. And then revival is improving the condition of, or kind of strengthening the condition of something, making it a little bit more popular, making it more important once again. So yeah, those are the definitions one more time. And yeah, okay, cool. So we've pinned the question there, so it'll be there um, for us to go. Oh yeah, and we see that Alana said the concept of success.
Mm,
Ooh, that is so good.
that's really good. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
what does it mean? What does it actually mean to be successful?
Right.
How do you define success? That's
Ooh.
that's so good. Um, that's really good. I think
Yeah.
we can probably take a stab at answering that at some point tonight.
Yeah. And it's so crazy because there's so many different ways I think of being successful,
Mm,
but it kind of seems like the American way of being successful is like what is it, 2.5 kids and a white picket fence
right.
and dog and just like this perfect like your husband's a lawyer, you're a stay-at-home mom.
Right.
Like
That's been
that
like
is success.
the American dream ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But honestly, I feel like that is starting to be dismantled
Yeah.
just because of how things are going in the world. I don't personally think that truly defines success
Right.
anymore.
Right.
Um,
Oh, totally.
and
Yeah.
I never really did, but yeah.
Yeah.
So awesome. So as we think about this question, just keep in mind that we're ultimately trying to consider the pursuit of truth. Like
Mm-hmm.
with these things in mind, how can we really be pursuing truth in the face of this pandemic, in the face of a very tumultuous time in politics, all of the racial injustice that is kind of seeping through all of the systems in our society right now. Um, how are we really? How can we really pursue truth in the face of those things?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I guess the question that comes to mind, and I guess we can try to take a stab at answering the question.
Mm-hmm.
So where do we see a need for revelation and revival in our culture and in our lives right now?
Mm-hmm. So we're just gonna start.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay.
Do you want to answer first, or you want
You can go first.
me first? Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I personally have been thinking about, uh,
Mm-hmm.
from my perspective as an artist, I see my aunt is on here, Auntie Nikki. She said, "Learning to thrive instead of simply surviving." That's so good.
That is so good.
I love that. Yeah, yeah. I think that's so critical.
Yeah.
Um, so I'll give kind of my take on something first, and then we
Okay.
can tap into some of these
Yeah.
comments. I think they're going to be really good. I've been thinking about how there's definitely a need for reviving the way that I approach creating things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this can apply to artists, and this can apply to anyone who's creating something. So whatever your work is, I'm sure that you are tasked to create in some way.
Right.
So I think in my creative process, when it comes to my art, um, I found that I'm always kind of seeking to realize something. One thing that I try to do is try to realize things that I need to convey through my music.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, that looks like keeping my eyes open for moments of inspiration throughout the day. And then it also looks like genuinely asking God what the world needs.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, what do people within my reach need for encouragement? What do I need to speak through my work?
Yeah.
I honestly believe that if more artists and more people in whatever area you are in or pursuing um, really take this approach of stopping to ask God, the creator, the person who created the one and not
Yeah.
the created all of us,
Right.
what is our purpose? What do you need me to bring forth through my work? I think we would see a lot more people stewarding their platforms well. And I think that in itself is an important idea because I think we all have a platform. We all have people who we can influence and who we
Right.
even without knowing on a daily basis. And so I think we can be better stewards of our platforms if we actually seek God for revelation. about what he needs us to do. And I think if we do that, we won't miss moments of opportunity, and moments of inspiration that are before us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, for example, I'll share a small story.
Okay.
One of the first songs that I wrote and shared with people came from me actually being asked to write a song for an event that I actually didn't want to be a part of. And so someone approached me, they're like, we're doing this event. This was actually when we were in undergrad. They were doing an event and they asked if I would write a song that could basically kind of tell my story and share my experience. At the time, I was feeling extremely nervous about it. I was very new at playing guitar and like singing in front of people still. And I really didn't want to do it. And I was very close to turning down the opportunity. And ultimately, I'm glad that I didn't, because the song that I ended up writing was the song that really framed my brand and the reason why I write music. Um,
Wow.
and so just thinking back to that example, I honestly feel like if I hadn't been in tune with God and
Yeah.
like listening to what God really wanted me to do and being able to catch those moments of inspiration and moments where I needed to take an opportunity, I may have missed that and I may not have written that song at that time, which could have changed the series of events.
Right.
So that's kind of what I think. I think that we need to revive the way we think and revive the way that we try to find inspiration in life.
Absolutely. And I love that people say all the time, or the famous saying of like you feel the fear and you do it anyway.
Yes.
And because you did that, that was like your first single that you put out, and that's just awesome.
Yeah.
Um,
I love what Hoki said. She said, in our culture, being teachable isn't popular. Often pride gets in the way of our search for truth. That,
mm-hmm.
that is so true. Especially in today's culture when everybody feels like it's just such an individualistic culture that we're in right now.
Right.
It feels like I know everything, I have everything I need to succeed. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we all have so much to learn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you let yourself learn in that moment, as you were saying, okay, I don't really want to be a part of this, but I'm just gonna do it anyway. And you were allowing yourself to be teachable in that moment. And even what Alana was saying before, this idea of success, maybe redefining that. It's like you
Yeah.
were very successful in that, even though it was something that maybe you went into with a little bit of trepidation or whatever. Now you had your first single, and then that single produced the next one, and now you're like albums out here. So
Listen.
preach. Yeah, so I think for me,
Yeah.
the idea of revival and revelation is so necessary in music education. Um, I am a music educator, and just thinking back to my experience, it really blows my mind how, like, in this art form, I am often the only person of color.
Mm.
And I could say, like, that is my protest, that is my activism. Of course, totally, definitely, that is my truth. Um, but by being in this industry, I'm realizing that I'm kind of protesting a system
Mm.
that doesn't really allow for us inner city, often people of color, kids of color, students of color, the opportunity to learn about classical music and to learn about the classical arts just
That's
in general.
that's so
Uh, yeah. And so, um, like, the options for us inner city kids are often, and it sounds like a cliche, but for me, that was just what I felt growing up, and what I know a lot of my peers have felt is like basketball player, rapper,
mhm.
um,
Something in the entertainment world.
yeah, just something in entertainment, exactly, whether it's sports or like music, but like popular music. And so that's very limiting. Like, and so for me, like, the concept of being an opera singer Like, what concept? That was not even a concept. Like, that's not even a thought, because I wasn't exposed to that growing up. Like, that wasn't, and I'm not saying like that's the fault of the people that I live with. I'm talking about education
Yeah.
and in school, you know. And so I just think about that, and it's, you know, other than being an opera singer, obviously that's not the only way you could do classical music. But like, if you want to be a classical violinist, okay, a violin is how many hundreds, thousands, or something? And then if you want to be good, you have to start when you're like 3, and you have to have lessons every week,
right, which is
since you're 3 years old. So it's like,
for because someone has to pay for the lessons.
somebody has to pay for the lessons. You got to get to the lesson,
Right.
you know, wherever that might be. You have to buy sheet music. It's like this whole thing that is just so extraordinarily expensive, and therefore cuts off like a whole, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Category of people. You know what I mean? And it's so crazy, because those traits that you learn as a musician in musicianship of being, I'll just say, for lack of a better term, like a serious musician, that's like some serious determination and like tenacity, and you're learning to work with others, especially if you're a violinist, like string quartets, like that's a huge thing. Not to mention, obviously, an orchestra. There's like a gajillion violinists, and then violists and cellists and bassists and all this stuff. So often these people that are, do you hear the motorcycles?
No.
Okay. The illegal dirt bikes, sorry. Mad loud. So often, the skills that you gain from being a musician are these things like leadership skills and working with others, and often you're like a perfectionist, and because you have to like practice all day, usually by yourself, and really just kind of drill things over and over, and you're looking for your mistakes, and you're just, you know, these things, I feel, and I did a little bit of research on Google, but they often lead to like higher paying jobs. And so if I am not given that opportunity, and of course this is just one example of music education where we need these terms that we're talking about here.
We need to revive the system, change.
Absolutely.
We need revelation for how to truly change the system.
Absolutely.
To be more accurate.
Yeah, because if we're going to say, again, Alana said on here, this idea of success, often that, and, you know, we'll talk about that as we go, as you said, but that could be having a higher paying job. Okay, well, maybe I won't have the opportunity to have this higher paying job because I don't really have these skills, or these skills weren't cultivated at a young age. So I'm a little bit behind in that sort of sense. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's just me thinking about these terms that we're talking about. And for me at first, it's just like, yeah, music education. I don't, and as I've said before, me being an opera singer was like an accident. Like, it wasn't totally on purpose. Like, I didn't grow up having lessons in this way, and kind of doing this with this end goal in mind. But for sure, as I consider these things, it's like, yeah, the people in my community are not being given this chance, this opportunity, this opportunity to be like ahead.
Absolutely.
They can be successful, and we can kind of operate in, I don't know, inequity,
yes.
You know, inequality.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
So my day job, for those who don't know on here, is in higher ed. I have an administrative role at New England Conservatory of Music, and one of the conversations that is being had right now in that space is about these very things of just, well, let's bring in more Black students. but there's no money for the Black students. And so it brings all these deeper issues of like just the fact that your average young African American students don't have access to be able to take lessons from the age of 3, 5, and cultivate this skill that these very wealthy students from Asia or from white families in America have, and then just have this opportunity to get into a school and
And
money.
they end up at NUC. It's like
Right,
an amazing school for classical arts.
right. So you end up with this very um, racially unbalanced institution, and then you wonder why. And somewhat of an aside, but I was extremely surprised when I started working there that there were they had recently gotten rid of, which they were all very excited about, some scholarships that were extremely racist, and
Oh, I was like, why are we excited? Okay, but
they were
okay,
excited to have gotten
yeah.
rid of them because there were people who had given money to schools and specified that they wanted it to go to white students and things like that. And I wouldn't doubt that there are other
What?
institutions across the country that have those sorts of things going on. So yes, I agree. There totally needs to be change there.
Yo, that's crazy. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. Um, Here, go ahead. I said a lot.
No, that was really good. Um, so something else I was thinking about as far as um, oh, but actually, I kind of want to hear what your thoughts are on this too. We at the end of the last time we were on here, we were talking about our experiences as women and in our various shoes as far as our race and things like that. Just kind of what that's been like, and whether I think in the context of this conversation, I think it's important to consider what should be what should be changed. What revelation do we need how how the experience of a Black woman should be in this country and in this time? And I think for me, one of the first things that came to mind when I was thinking about that question were just ideals of beauty and ideals of image, of self-image, which I think are things that a lot of Black women think about. And for me personally, those have been kind of some of the biggest struggles around my Black experience. And a lot of those have dealt with hair and things like that, of having friends, a lot of my friends growing up being white and being other races from me, and always being around people with straight hair and not feeling like my hair was adequate or enough.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I have numerous experiences around dealing in that and just coming to be comfortable in who I am. But I think it's also something it's worth thinking about as well, just like the mal effects of dealing with something like that, as far as the trauma that actually comes from being asked certain questions or being told certain things about my hair or my self, my being,
Mm-hmm.
that have been somewhat damaging over the years. And so it just leads me to think that I think we really have to revive the way that we define beauty, and the way that we, just, I guess, the way we define beauty in relation to race.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just as a small example, not my personal example, but again, since like everybody in the world is going live and talking about things, I'm watching like all the opera singers that I love. And one woman was saying that her name is Latonia Moore, super famous in the opera world. Porgy and Bess happened right before it got to premiere and do their whole role, before coronavirus happened at the Metropolitan Opera. And she was Serena, and oh my gosh, ridiculous. Stole the show, so amazing. Serena sings My Man's Gone Now, and you know, all these famous arias that have been turned into jazz standards because they're just so good. So anyway, so she was talking and she was saying that because, and she's been told by people, that because she is darker and a little heavier, she just will not be cast for certain roles, even though they fit her voice. It's just like somebody that looks like you shouldn't sing this role, which is just so terrible. It's like, well, if I could sing,
then why does it matter?
exactly. And this is all about imagination, like, this is straight up imagination. So that's been something that has been coming up when I'm listening to some people. And then again, and I actually heard him say this live, Lawrence Brownlee, he is a black tenor. And so he said, I'm just looking at what I wrote here, yeah, that people wouldn't listen to him because he is black, but also because he's short.
Yes.
So often the like hero and the heroine in a drama, whatever it is, an opera, a play, a TV show, usually you think of like the love interest, the guy, as like tall. They always say tall, dark, and handsome. They don't really mean dark though, but tall, dark, and handsome. And he is not tall at all. So he would say that I think one of his agents or something like this told him, and I don't want to get this totally wrong, but told him it is your job to make the audience forget that you're black.
Wow.
And forget that you're short. That you just need to be that good of a singer, and then people will forget.
Wow. That's
and yes, but oh my gosh, no.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter that much. Like, of course, I don't want to be blind to who he actually is. A black man. I'm just not going to be like, oh, well, I don't see color. That's not the goal. For sure, that's not the goal. But at the same time, like, his voice should be enough. And it is just crazy that like somebody else has to tell him like, well, you're just gonna have to make them believe you. I'm just not convinced that would be said to somebody who's tall and somebody who's white.
That's probably.
I don't think they have those conversations. And back to Latonia Moore, one thing that she said in terms of what we're talking about in beauty standards and stuff. And she said that her advice to younger singers would be to be as much of a chameleon as you can. Just come to every experience with a blank slate, so that the director and the choreographer and all of these people can kind of like make you, the makeup artist, everybody can kind of make you into what they want for this show, which of course makes sense. But does that kind of devalue and get rid of who I am coming in?
Yes.
Because I'm not meeting your standard, you have to do all this extra so that people will believe me? I don't know.
That raises a really interesting question, just of like, and I think it leans toward identity politics, of like the idea that there are maybe black families who tell their son, like, if you don't act this way, if you don't sag your pants and talk this way, then you'll be fine. So change the way that you are, assimilate, like Alana said, assimilate with the culture, and you will be fine.
Yeah.
And it begs the question of like, is that appropriate? I don't really think it is. I don't think you should have to morph into the majority just to not be targeted and marginalized.
Right. Because then, as you were saying in the beginning, as kind of what you hope to do as an artist and hope that other artists do, is to really like seek some revelation as to where we need to go. If we did that, even like the directors, the people in charge of the industry, if everybody did that, then we wouldn't have to beg people to assimilate and be something that they're not, or feel guilty for who they are,
Mm-hmm.
um, for being darker or shorter or
Mm-hmm.
heavier, or and even these things are like the part of it is just like,
Mm-hmm.
then what,
Right.
like
And what
what,
society has been in it, then what it's been ingrained in the minds of people
right,
is is right. It's
right,
right to be taller. It's best and most favorable to be lighter skinned, or you know.
absolutely,
Interesting you brought that up because I was reading a book last week and it was kind of explaining the whole tall, dark, and handsome, like
mm-hmm.
where that came from in this country.
Yeah,
And I didn't really know this, but I guess it really kind of originated around one of the early presidents who, this man who wasn't, they didn't really feel like he was qualified to be president, but he was a white man who had like a deeper tone to his skin. I forget his name and which president he was, but he was also very tall and he was what you might consider to be handsome. And so people ended up, it ended up kind of being pushed that he looked like he would be a great president, although he really didn't bring much to the table in terms of what his role would actually be as
so
president.
you're cute but you're dumb.
Right. And so
Okay.
that was this book, in the book it was really saying that that's where this sort of originated, the idea that tall is better, and that
Mm-hmm.
so it's interesting.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hokie said, she said, I agree with you, Shanell. I think she was talking about the hair when I was talking about hair.
Mm-hmm.
That it happens in the Latino community too. I believe it.
Yeah. I think as me being biracial, I've experienced that as well. Um,
Like colorism.
yeah, and I think, well, I was gonna say about hair,
Oh, oh, oh.
um, but for sure, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
colorism, and that it kind
What's
of,
your experience been as a biracial person?
well, in terms of hair, I would say, I just want to say this delicately, um, that I grew up, and I don't regret where I grew up in the inner city with, um, my mom and her whole family. They immigrated here from Jamaica. I'm currently sitting in my grandfather's chair, R.I.P.
Nice.
And so everybody, and this is also a generalization in a sense, everybody kind of had the same kind of hair. And so,
In your family.
yeah. And so they kind of would know what to do. And so I really liked, their braids and everything like that. And I like wanted to learn how to braid and be a part of that experience. And so my cousin,
Braid my hair in college. Did
I
you?
know, my cousin taught me how to braid, and then another one of my cousins, he had a lot of hair. So I would be like, Isaac, I'm gonna braid your hair every weekend. So every Friday after school, I would braid his hair, or if he had like a football game, it's like, okay, let me get that ready for the game. So after you take off your helmet and all the cheerleaders are like, I think you'd be like, oh, my hair is, yeah. So I was trying to help him out. So really just trying to build my skills of hair braiding. But yeah, I felt that I really wanted to be like a part of that experience. And I felt that I noticed that everybody kind of felt like when their hair was done, or after they came from the salon or something like that. And I never really had that experience because my hair, I guess, didn't require, not I guess, my hair, maybe I guess, my hair didn't really require like protective styles of braids and things like this.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody in my family really growing up, I'm just trying to think, had like weave or anything. My mom has always had a perm though.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, it was just kind of like this beautiful thing that I didn't really know how to be a part of.
Mm.
And everybody knew how to do their hair, and I was learning how to do their hair. But subsequently, I didn't really like know how to do my hair because it's like I don't really need to, I guess, use like Jamaican castor oil.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I don't want to use Tresemme either.
Right.
So that's kind of like where I lie. Like,
Yeah.
I have natural curls. You see my little.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have natural curls and I want to like cultivate them, but I don't need to be like, you know, maybe I don't need like yogurt and butter and eggs and like scalp massage. But
With a good scalp massage.
I mean that's real. That be helping them, helping it grow. That scalp massage. But for sure, I'm just kind of like trying to understand where or like how to do my hair. How to do my hair in a way that kind of represents who I am, which is why I like to do styles and like braids and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I also don't want to be, I guess, not sensitive to just like understanding that a lot of styles like weaves and braids are like for protection,
right. Yeah.
So I don't want to. Why am I blanking on the word? I don't want to like Kim Kardashian out here wearing braids because it's what's the word?
Not like co-opt the culture.
Yes, but
you're a part of the culture though. So
but Alana feels me. She's also biracial. So you get it. I mean, Allison.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just like finding that. Yeah. Finding that middle ground. Oh, this is killing me that I can't find the word.
Thinking of appropriation.
Appropriation. Yes. I don't want to appropriate. Yeah. Thanks, Steph. Cultural appropriation. I don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. And that's also like a fine line.
It's not though, because regardless of what people think when they see you, even though your skin is not the same color as mine, you are just as much black as I am, or anybody else who is black.
And I just say that I feel like that's a compliment. And I appreciate
it's true
because I feel like it affirms who I feel that I am. Mm-hmm. But I am so sensitive to the fact that I am lighter, and I am positive that because I'm lighter, my experience of colorism has been different than yours.
Yeah. And I'm sure you also experienced some negative effects of colorism. And I have,
Yeah. But I feel like I'm talking a lot.
That's real, though.
Go ahead.
That's all really real. I think when I think about all of what we're talking about as far as like beauty and how we see ourselves, I think it has a lot to do with the story that we tell ourselves about who we are. Mm-hmm. And just one of the things that I have been thinking about as we were preparing to talk on here tonight, mm-hmm. that we have to make the conscious decision to literally bury everything negative about the way that we view ourselves. Whether it's stuff that we have conjured up on our own, whether it's because of something that somebody said to us that you just can't let go of, and really embody the worth that we all have in the eyes of God.
So good.
And revisiting that has helped me so much. It continues to help me. And I think it's something that it's going to be a continual healing process of like healing from the weird things that people have said to me about myself over the years.
Yeah.
But I think leaning into the truth of who God says that we are, mm-hmm. choose to believe that, it's so healing. And there is so much good that can come out of it. And I think it speaks to this concept of double-mindedness, which I think it talks about that in the Bible of like being double-minded would be like you can't embody what God thinks about you while also embodying what you think about yourself.
Yeah, there's no space for the two.
Cancel each other out.
Yeah.
So we have to literally die to all of that negative stuff and all of the stigma that comes with whatever the world is saying.
Mm-hmm.
Just embody this narrative that I am beautiful, I am who God made me to be, whatever that definition is. If we call it we're black, we're biracial, we're whatever, but I'm beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Period.
Right. Hashtag rise above. For
That's
sure.
it. Hashtag that's it.
Yeah. Go
Right?
listen to Shanell Alyssa at Shanell Alyssa's Rise Above. Because that, like, sums it all up.
Yeah. And that song, the whole process of writing that song has helped me to internalize that message even more for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. So how's everybody on here doing? Thanks for hanging out on here. The one
Yeah.
comment, rise above, yes. I really like my aunt's comment. I don't even know if she's still on here, but when we asked the question that's pinned, she said, learning to thrive instead of simply surviving.
Yes.
And I think that's so important.
Shout out to Auntie.
Shout out Auntie. Like, and then it begs the question, like, I think we should ponder that for a minute. Like, how do we,
Mago Day.
which
Yes.
said, yes, Imago Day.
Yes.
How do we make sure that we're thriving every day and not simply staying above water? Yes, she's still here. How do we make sure that we're thriving every day and not simply just doing the bare minimum, just staying afloat?
Mm-hmm. I think that has to do with the first thing that you said in terms of revelation. Like, if we all do that every day, all the time, and we're just like constantly being connected, then we will hear an internal kind of still small voice, maybe, that can let us know, like, that's not for you. Pull back on that thing.
Yes.
Or
Go on.
that's yours. Keep going after that. That's all you.
Yes.
Because then we would be, striving for things that are just not for us or not good for us. I think something that I was talking with, as I said, I'm in Boston visiting family, and an interesting conversation that was had last night with my husband's side of the family was this idea of rest. And it's like, yo, we don't rest.
Ooh,
Like,
say that again.
we're always just like, if we're not working, then it's like, oh, I got to serve at the church and I got to do all these things. And, then you're just doing, 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 doing. But when are you ever just being?
Just living, right?
You know?
That's so critical. And I've been thinking about that because I've heard several people, not maybe several, but one conversation I was listening to since quarantine about like the way that our culture sort of makes busy synonymous with, or makes success and productivity synonymous with being busy and like running yourself into the ground.
Wow, yeah.
Which I think is totally terrible.
Yeah.
Like, we need to take time, because what is the point of running wild your whole life and you forget to stop and smell the roses? You forget to stop and realize that there's this really pretty bird that sits outside my window every day.
Oh, you need to sing that song on here.
That's how I wrote that song, right?
Ooh! She is living.
Listen,
Revived.
like
a revived life.
If
A revealed life.
If you're unaware of the things, of the small things that are so beautiful, like my mom and I took a walk earlier this week, and it was actually very scary. But we saw a snake, and then we also saw a bat. There's a lot,
What?
right? I'm coming back to Boston because there's too much going on out here. But like the little things, if you don't take a minute to take a 5-minute walk,
Yeah.
you might not.
You forget like that there's bats. Like,
Right?
oh, you have just like
That stuff is out here, right?
bats
But
be out here.
important. I think that's so important.
Mm-hmm.
It said, Auntie said,
Yeah.
I'm starting my morning with prayer, a Bible plan, a gospel mix. Yes. To get me in a positive state of mind. Yes, to rest. Resting has become much harder for many people now as we're working from home. That's true. It's often hard to separate work from home when both are in the same place.
Mm-hmm.
That's so true.
You see, Hoki's comment here. I agree. Our culture celebrates productivity. And we as the church can at times get lost in it too. When we pause and pray, God's peace that surpasses understanding falls on us. Come on now, she preaching.
Listen, preach hokey.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's
good.
so absolutely true. And I think
So good.
that's a part of just seeking revelation. Like,
Hmm.
God, just give us peace.
Right. Yep.
Listen.
Yeah. That peace part is so huge because if you operate, we cannot operate out of
Stress.
whatever the opposite of peace is, destruction, and
Yeah.
sometimes we don't even see it as that. Like, oh, I'm not at peace, but there's like this middle ground. Nah, either you're peaceful, or
Or you're not.
like you just need to get into that positivity and knowing that as we were saying in terms of standards of beauty, that we are beautiful and we are made in the image of God, and
Yeah.
we can do what we are set out to do,
Yes.
and we can be successful
Yes.
in doing those things.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's so,
absolutely.
and I think this is probably one of the last things that I was thinking about in relation
Hmm.
to like the revelation and revival.
Yeah.
Um, but I really think that there needs to be like a revival, like broadly across the world, just a revival of belief in seeking after something bigger than us. And that being the true living God. And I don't know who all is on here. I know some of our friends and family are on here, but
Mm.
whoever on here, like if you are finding yourself extremely stressed in this time and unsure, like there is true peace in God. And
Hmm.
both of us have found that, and like it's interesting. We're in a time like I think people are looking for peace.
Oh yeah, for
People
sure.
really want to be at peace and at ease. And I've talked to so many people who are extremely stressed in this time. But I think if we really choose to seek after God, we will find it in the simple moments, even if it looks like going for a walk and seeing a snake. But whatever. Like if it's just noticing some
No, for real. Yeah.
that brings you peace, you know.
Yeah.
So I think that's so critical.
And I think part of that too is just like reminding yourself, like, you're not the only thing out here.
What do you
Like,
mean?
you're not, the world is not crashing in on you because you're not the only one in the world.
Yes.
Like, there are other creatures here that are thriving and just living life, whether that's a snake or a bat or another person
Yeah.
along your little, nature walk.
Yeah.
And that can bring you some peace and like, yeah, I'm not alone. Like, we I'm here with everyone,
Yeah.
um, rather than just getting so isolated and like lasered in on your particular problems.
Yeah.
Life is bigger than that.
You said life is bigger than that?
Yeah.
Oh, I so agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Nature is healing, Allison said. That's so true. My mom said we can't be God if we don't enter into rest. I think that's
Yes.
really true. We have
That's,
we have to take a step back.
yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
That's beautiful. Well,
Mm-hmm.
we're nearing the end of our time. Thank you all for hanging out and for sticking in with us.
Yes. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. If anybody has any thoughts about what conversations you want us to bring to this platform, just send either of us a direct message and we'll put it in the queue.
Yes.
Yeah, we're planning
We
on
love
doing.
to hear from you guys.
Yes,
Though we have plans, we always have plans,
yes,
but
yes.
we're also always open to, you know, going how it's supposed to go, allowing this to be whatever it's supposed to be.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
I love it. Yeah, so I think that's a wrap on this conversation. So as we're pursuing truth, I think my biggest takeaway is
Mm.
remembering the importance of just going back to our purpose. like whatever God has told us, whatever we are hearing in our heart from what God is telling us to do. If we go back to our purpose, I think that we'll have the ability to really make effective change and influence the people in our sphere.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. We are here every other Thursday at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, 6 o'clock Mountain Time, every other Thursday. So we'll see everybody in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Love
Awesome.
you guys. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Yes. We love you all. Thank you so
Love you.
much for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye.